Hey traders, checking into the stock market today. A lot of weakness out there as we get ready for the FOMC tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, and what Powell will have to say. And we'll see how the charts are shaping up in anticipation of this event. So we can see SPY had a gap down open and some further pullback, but we filled a gap here. This is a phantom wick. This wick was not there on that trading day. So there was a gap at 460.79, and that has now filled. And again, how the FOMC goes tomorrow will dictate one of two things. We have a bearish reaction and we head back down, still going to scout a higher low compared to 448.92. But at that point, we'll be looking for an equilibrium. And if it's a bullish reaction, we can very quickly test our recent high of 470.90. At this point in time, that's about 1.5% to the upside. So certainly not very significant. So bulls are still positioned favorably as far as the broader market is concerned, but we know under the hood that there are some sectors much weaker than others, and I'm going to be watching IWM and growth very closely because again, for me, IWM and growth is risk on, cryptocurrency as well, risk on assets, and right now we are seeing risk off. And what I would want to see to have confidence in the market as a whole, as far as a bull outlook, I want to see our risk on assets going up. That means bulls are getting comfortable putting their money in higher risk, higher reward places. And so crypto and IWM are my gauge for that. IWM today held the fear low, but only just barely. We had a great morning bounce, but we gave it all back. And now we're still in a clear hourly downtrend. Resistance from yesterday was 217.71. We rejected by 19 pennies into a new low of the day. If we change the hourly trend of the bulls, this is a bear favored chart because even on a bounce, we will just be looking for a daily lower high. So again, the bulls have a lot of proving to do. And if we drop down to a fresh lower low, that will tell me that people are still cautious and that the bears have some solid control. QQQ today, big gap down. It also filled this gap from back here, 387.60. We had an oversold bounce play on QQQ. That hourly RSI got down into the teens at the lows of today, and I'll talk about a couple bounce trades that I took today, but not yet. So QQQ, same thing, nice bounce into the end of the day, but we must change the hourly trend tomorrow with a higher low and higher high if we're going to be shaping up a daily higher low compared to our fear low, 378.90. So wall of resistance, fear low, double top at our wall of resistance, and now bulls trying to set a higher low. SMH, gap down, scouting a daily higher low, anything above 290.51. Some of the major players in the sector, NVDA and AMD, already broke support, but the ETF itself did not. Same thing, we need an hourly trend change. Nice bounce into the end of the day, but tomorrow the bulls have to prove it with follow through. If we confirm an hourly trend change, our daily higher low is set. And again, there's a lot of space for this tightening range. We can then scout a lower high, anything under 315.42. So bulls have a lot of work to do in the market as a whole. Because again, even if we set these daily higher lows on a lot of these sectors, we do still have the possibility that that just results in another lower high. So bulls have proving to do. Bears are comfortable in the short term. Again, it's a tale of different time frames. Bulls are comfortable on monthly charts in a lot of places, even on weekly charts in a lot of places. But daily charts, bulls are not that comfortable at this point. Need to set these daily higher lows. Tesla bear break with a lack of follow through, which has me watching this downtrending 4-hour support line, which has 4 touches now. And we saw a decent bounce there. So again, there's all our touches, downtrending support to be keeping an eye on. We could draw a resistance line that's nice and tight here. Bounce into the end of the day, but again, we need to change the hourly trend. Bounces are great, but we had great bounces at the end of yesterday in some names that saw no follow through. XBI being one of them. We'll look at that in just a second. So nice bounce, confirm the hourly trend change. And again, even if we confirm the hourly trend change and we can bounce 10% and still be under daily resistance. So that's what I mean when the bulls have proving to do. A lot of names just scouting daily lower highs to be the result of the next bounce. I will be very interested if Tesla bounces from here and we do see green because of that potential falling wedge setup. XLV, Staying strong for the bulls, daily inside bar, higher low every single day pattern for the last 8 days. If that pattern breaks, tons of space for a daily higher low to form. This is one chart where the bulls are very comfortable on the daily time frame, knowing that they have that much space to work with for that higher low. We'll be watching for first hourly oversold conditions, but bulls aren't worried. Bearish reaction to Powell and FOMC tomorrow, no biggie, we'll scout the higher low. But a lot of sectors don't have that luxury or that amount of cushion to work with. XLF, solid day for the bulls today. Low, high of the bounce, trying to change the trend. We must break 39.48 for the bulls to be back in a daily uptrend. As far as short-term support, 38.50. So XLF tried to hold up the market today. XLF and IWM went up on the morning. QQQ weakness. Then we saw everything get weak middle of the day. And then we saw IWM give it all back. QQQ with a bounce. There's a lot of shifting going on today. And it makes sense. A lot of positioning going on. We got Powell tomorrow. And then we got quad witching on Friday. And we're heading into the end of the year. People shuffling portfolios, locking in losses, things like that. So a lot of shifting going on. A lot of traders expressed today in the TheChartGuys chat room that the last 3 weeks have been difficult for them. And that makes sense when you look at these charts. It's a very different market environment the last 3 weeks versus the weeks prior. So this is easy and clear. This is choppy. So what that means is trade less. Trade with smaller position sizes, take less trades, be more picky, and wait for clarity. Again, it's so important as a trader, if you're going to be doing this long term with consistency, you got to know when to pump the gas and pump the brakes. Because if you just trade steady with your head down, you will have periods where it goes really well and then periods where you give a lot of it back. You have to adjust with the changing market environments. And oftentimes it just means stop trading. And that's a good enough decision, because that means you are preserving your profit from the previous easier cycle and you're not giving it back. So at this point in time, a lot of shuffling going on, a lot of reactions to Powell, FOMC, tapering, yada, yada, end of the year, and trading less until there is clarity. I'm just trading less because it's the end of the year and I don't want to give back profits into the end of the year. But it's nicely timed because, again, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty and a lot of shuffling around. There was a period where we had all of our major sectors doing the same thing every day. They would either all go up or they would all go down. Very one directional, and it was mostly up. So it was nice and easy. But now it's just this swirling shuffling. IWM, so again, it's very weak. We saw a nice bounce on the morning, but we gave it all back. Hourly downtrend still intact, and if 212.71 breaks, we're then looking down at 210.68 and 209.05. XBI tried to play a bounce here. It started well. Morning bounce, rejected from the high of yesterday, resistance. New low. End of day bounce, just a lower high still. IWM or XBI needs IWM to bounce if it's going to hold 106.92 support. And again, bears are comfortable knowing even if we hold support, we're just going to scout a daily lower high initially. XBI and IWM are our weakest sectors that we're looking at here. Dollar testing resistance, it's been sideways. The bulls are keeping their control. So we're looking at recent highs, daily higher low, keeping bulls strong. Gold with a bear break. The metals are staying weak. Every single bounce is a lower high. We know we're not going anywhere if we keep setting a lower high every single bounce. We're testing our recent low of 1761. Silver already broke to a lower low. It's been weaker. And again, we're going to see a lot of reaction to the dollar and the metals to the FOMC tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, in my opinion. So trades I took today, I was looking to play the bounces. And let's see, what did I do first? XBI, bottom fishing XBI. I know we have a clear daily support level. I know IWM is testing its support. As soon as we broke 109, I made my entry this morning. So I make my entry, I place my stop under 108. And 108 was the low and giving it wiggle room. 108.41 was the low, giving it wiggle room. Broke it by 6 cents, new high of the day. Okay, that's nice. Scaled out some. Why? Hourly, anything under 111.54 is just a lower high. It also had a bit of a bearish correlation with IWM. IWM was stronger on the morning than XBI was. I exited 2/3 of my position into the morning bull move. And then I exited the last third on this bounce here because I realized this is not what I was looking for. And, you know, I could have stopped out with a small win if 108 broke, but I just sold it. And it ended up being a very small win, uneventful. From there, I went to Microsoft. Microsoft had this gap fill, and at the same time, the hourly 15-minute, 5-minute RSI were all in the teens. QQQ hourly RSI was down around 20 or in the teens and due for a bounce. I know Microsoft is going to correlate with QQQ, so I played the bounce. Scaled in, first initial entry was a little bit early at 327, somewhere around here. Made a second entry, low 325s, put my stop under 323.50, sold half into a bounce, reloaded half, sold half, reloaded half, sold half, and sold before the end of the day move here as I was live streaming, sold half. So that worked out. That made my day as far as being the worthwhile trade. It took a lot of micromanaging, you know, to do all those little flips because every time I enter a full position, I now can't do anything. I just have to wait until my stop loss is hit or I get into a spot where I can sell half, get my ammo back so I'm not out of ammo, and then be a lot more comfortable being able to maneuver around. And I only do this on trades where I know I'm looking for the hourly bounce. That's why I'm in this trade. The hourly RSI is down in the low teens. That's why I'm in this trade. And every time a short-term RSI bounce takes place, it cools things off. And I want to exit a little bit to ensure that I don't stop out right before the hourly bounce gets going. So every time I sell half, I pull my stop because I know that if we see another leg down, and as long as the hourly RSI is not cooling off, I'm going to re-enter the half and then look to maneuver around again to sell that partial position and remain with breathing room. It's almost like I just imagine being constricted when I'm in a full position. I can't move, I can't do a thing. And as soon as I sell half, all right, got some breathing room, I can maneuver around, can do this with my arms while I'm trading, and it's a lot more comfortable for me. So that was my day, uneventful. And again, I've reflected in the chat room today that because everything was so red on my screen, you know, most of the day I was green today. Nothing big. You know, I was up a day maker a good bit of the day. I was down a half a day maker at the lows for my account, but it felt psychologically like I was losing on the day. And it was just something to reflect upon, and it didn't make much sense. I mean, I guess the fact that I was just staring at red all day and the bears had such significant control all morning on SPY and QQQ. QQQ really struggled to shift this momentum. It finally did into the end of the day, but again, it's just a slow grind down all day. And it was wearing on me psychologically. So why do I feel like I'm losing a lot of money right now when I'm green? Didn't make any sense. But small win day. So that's what we got. All about FOMC tomorrow. I'm probably going to be mostly cash. You know, I'll have a hedge position for my long-term no-touch SPY. And so I will have some SPXS for that. And then I will likely play the reaction depending. You know, how I like to play the FOMC reaction is I like to wait for an initial reaction. I'm watching the 1 minute time frame. I want to see a range established, and I want to play off that range. So what I want to do is see a big move up, and then see the first little pullback, and then I short and I top fish. Or a big drop down, and then we give a 1 minute equilibrium, and I play the higher low, and I put my stop under the low at that point. That's generally how I play the FOMC. 1 minute time frame, using levels that are established on the reaction. Sometimes we'll, you know, bounce right off the low of the day or reject right from the high of the day, and that's when it's easier to have a level in advance that you're watching. But that's really the only way that I trade the FOMC. Otherwise, it's just another great example of sitting on your hands and waiting for clarity. Preserving capital in times of uncertainty to allow yourself to go aggressive in times of certainty is key to longevity in this game. Have a good day, do good things. Let's see what Powell has to say. There. See you tomorrow. I think we're on story time, chapter 7. And now we are leaving the place that I'm going to go back to house sit. But in the meantime, I got a couple weeks where I'm going to explore Colorado. First things first, heading through Rocky Mountain National Park. So just a bunch of exploring around every day, just an adventure to hike and camp and look at new things. And I was planning on going westward and then wrapping my way around through Telluride and then swinging back down to the south through Durango and Mesa Verde National Park. So this is up on Rocky Mountain National Park. And some of the roads, the elevation that they get up to and the mountains and the passes that they go through are pretty incredible. If you've never been in big mountains, if you've only been on the East Coast, here in North Carolina, 4,000 feet is a big mountain. And over there, you're looking at 13,000 plus feet. And you can be driving up over, 10,000, 11,000 feet. Very significant. So, nice wildflowers. When you're there in June and July, wildflowers can be popping off. And I was really taken aback and surprised by how many wildflowers there are in some of these fields. And of course, this cell phone picture doesn't do justice for the colors. But this was a nice lake. And again, all these lakes are pretty cool colors because a lot of them have runoff from these mountains and a bunch of minerals. And again, the water's freezing, but cool places to camp around. And in this particular instance, someone got lost up here. So I say how normally it's very quiet at about 5 p.m. But on this day, I don't know how you get lost. It wasn't like a kid got lost. A grown man got lost from around this lake. This is the destination where the trail leads up to. Anyway, so he was lost and he got far enough away that, we're screaming at the top of our lungs and we can only hear the tiny, faintest yell in the distance. So we know he's somewhere out there. We know it's getting dark and he might have to sleep outside. So fortunately that didn't happen. And he stumbled his way. From the last people that came up onto the trail, they said, yeah, some guy stumbled his way out and was asking if he was on the right trail and was heading back down. So that was nice. I think he climbed his way up to a better perspective to try and see where he was at. Don't get lost, because even the most well-marked trails and well-marked landmarks, you can still get lost, I guess. So next I went to, this is up near Aspen, Conundrum Hot Springs. This is definitely one of the highlights of the trip and my favorite hot springs out of, 15 plus that I've been in. My favorite by far. It's an 8-mile hike to get up to it on some pretty steep elevation. So it's a whole day's journey, and that keeps out, that's almost like a selective barrier that the people are going to make it up there are people that really want to be there, not the kind of people that just pull off the road and, hop onto a waterfall for 10 minutes. So hiked my way up, and this is a view from the top. The tents and the camping area is behind us up on the hill, and there's the view of the valley, and this is the hot springs. And we're back to getting naked in the stories because that's the only way to get into a hot spring. So it was just a lot of fun, and it was a completely different contrast in terms of the kind of people that were there, because I went up there on a weekday, and I was only planning on going for 2 nights, and I got up there and said, this is the coolest place. I need to stay here. So I started rationing my food and trying to stay as long as possible. And it was the kind of thing where I went up on the weekday, so I was there maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I ended up stretching it to 4 nights. And the first few nights, it was very calm, very laid back. The people that were there were some really cool people, had some great conversations in there, talking about lucid dreaming. That's where I was talking about lucid dreaming with a young woman. And then she came back the next day and said that she had her first one after our conversation. And just very mellow and low key. And then there was a point in time where I was just sitting up there in this bigger pool by myself at maybe 4 o'clock, and I was naked, and one by one groups just started coming up, and they all started coming at the same time, and it's younger college kids, and they got the boombox, and they got a pool volleyball, a blow-up ball, and we're passing around bottles of rum, and I got some moonshine that my buddy made, and everybody's trading things. And so it gets to the point where everybody's just hopping in, and everybody is wearing bathing suits, because you kind of get the feel, if there's a few naked people, everybody's more comfortable getting naked. If everybody's wearing their bathing suit, everybody stays wearing their bathing suit. So I was already in the water naked. Literally 20, 25 more people are in here with me, to the point where, everybody's sitting in a circle and there's not really a whole lot of space. I'm the only naked person in that hot spring. It was just a really funny scenario because no one knew it until I got out, and I'm just this naked dude who's been in there the whole time. So that was funny, but it was a fun contrast because, again, like I said, I wasn't really interacting with people much on this trip other than passing conversations, and it was really nice to be hanging out with people my age, and definitely a bit of a party up there on the weekend nights, and that was fun. Ended up eating glacier lilies to try and ration my food and make it last longer. So these are edible and pretty darn good, actually. So I was going around and eating a bunch of those, and I would ration my rice. And I made the mistake of bringing rice, but not bringing anything but brown rice. And when you eat brown rice every single day, it gets really boring. I didn't bring anything to spice it up. So there were some other hikers there who had some soy sauce, and they left soy sauce with me. And that was like a gift that completely changed everything, because brown rice day after day was getting very old. There was also an older guy up there, and he lives, you could call him homeless, but he chose to live in these national areas, and they have rules where you can only stay in certain areas 6 months of the year. So you would have 2 camps, and he'd go 6 months to 6 months and just back and forth. And he would pretty much live up here at the hot spring, and he's been going for decades. And if anybody's been to this hot spring, there's a decent chance that you saw him. But he was just very knowledgeable on the area, and he had all these great stories. They were talking about how they brought a squash one time and put the squash under some rocks at the bottom of the hot spring, and a couple days later it was cooked, and they took it out and ate it. He also had some stories. Well, he had a lot of stories. That was a very interesting individual, someone that knowingly chooses to live on the land like that. And this man, the size of the pack, he was just this, frail little guy, but the size of the pack and the weight that he was carrying was putting me to shame. So it was extremely impressive how he was physically capable. And again, he's just been doing it for decades. So that's that. Go to Conundrum Hot Springs, Colorado, near Aspen. Definitely worth the hike up, although they could at this point. There were some issues where they were thinking about closing it and blah, 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 and the park services and all that. So double check and make sure it's still up. Hope you have a good day.